Hey ya, sassy crew! The Monster Hunter Wilds beta gave us the opportunity to try out the new things that come with it. I have had the chance to somewhat smoothly play the game on PC in order to get a general feeling of how it operates. Similar to World, this most recent title in the Monster Hunter franchise aims to innovate on the hunting experience in terms of combat fluidity, hunting gimmicks, quality of life, menu transition smoothness, and the believability of the environment. But before that, let's briefly mention the elephant in the room. As you have most likely already seen on social media or maybe even experienced it yourself, the PC version isn't the most reliable way to hunt monsters. The Monster Hunter Twitter account has addressed these issues and also states that the final build will be more stable. How big of a difference that is, however, we cannot tell yet. I will go more in depth on that topic later in the video, but as this issue is big enough, even for someone with a higher middle tier PC, I think it's important to just mention it right at the start of the video. So how was the beta experience and on PC specifically? What do I think about it so far? Let's find out, but of course, please keep in mind that this is only the demo. I have played it for, let's say, around 9 hours, and opinions might change after playing the full game. Right at the start, you are able to create and customize your character. The character creator is quite complex, which helps you bring your desired character into this world. I decided to bring my current channel character concept to life as close as possible. So yeah, secret sneak peek. Anyway, your character flows natural into this world, as long as you don't meme, of course, and even has some actual voice lines now. This is not something that happened before in the mainline game, but the way it is being handled so far feels good. The hunter doesn't do the majority of the talking, but the lines they end up saying give off the feeling of a professional who knows their place in this world. The game then starts off with the intro sequence. Our hunter is being called into action as the leader of an expedition in the Forbidden Lands in order to investigate what happened in the village of the Keepers, which befell a tragedy by the hands of an unknown creature. However, while traveling, we see a person and their sacred being chased by a pack of Balahara. Cutscene animations and voice action are quite the improvement over World, and I'm interested in how they're going to lay out this more complex story the team has mentioned. The cutscene kicks off one of probably many future cinematic gameplay portions. We don't do a lot here other than do a few button presses and camera movement. However, the scene itself is quite action-packed, so I think only those who despise automatic story sequences with a passion won't find themselves enjoying these portions during first-time experience. I, for one, quite liked it, as the action and camera shifted constantly to make you immersed in the sequences unfolding. It didn't overstay its welcome and was a nice way of hyping up some human-monster action. Not soon after, you get flung into your first battle. Combat will be covered later, but what I can see from observing the monsters is that their movements and attacks are once again very fluid like in World. The game seems to be leaning more into natural environment interaction this time, incorporating it both into the life of the monsters as well as during hunting sequences. Both small and large monsters showcase different behaviors. I mean, look at how this small monster hunts, or how the Alpha Doshaguma just flings one at me. Most likely, there will be many tiny behaviors you and I haven't seen yet. Having monster spawns and behavior depend on weather and time change within the same map is also a very nice touch that I'm surprised hasn't happened before, not counting the separate maps from previous Monster Hunter installments. Another nice aspect is the dynamic weather change that is occurring. Although I do wish that it wasn't so sudden and instead gave a small warning in the environment to help you get ready for it. Something taken over from the mobile title Monster Hunter Now is the star ranking of a monster. This appears to replace the regular difference in quest monster difficulty from the older games. I really welcome this change, as it does make sense to have some members of the same species to be stronger or weaker. If I'm not mistaken from my observations, there are even some new attacks thrown into the mix. A negative I have to state is probably this desert map itself. When you compare it to other starting areas like World's Ancient Forest or Free Ultimate's Deserted Island, it doesn't feel as varied or complete. I don't know how to best describe it. I mean, it is realistic for a desert area and how it functions, but it just misses the wow factor that other areas have. Of course, the Plenty period and that where the thunderstorm happens are still really cool. Also, I have the suspicion that my enjoyment was a bit hindered by the performance issues, which did prompt me to lower the graphics settings a little bit. As a game that focuses mainly on the hunting aspect, it is important that the gameplay loop, the menus surrounding it, and the controls feel good. Once you started up the game and joined the hub, there won't be loading screens on anything initiated by you on the Windward Plains. We know that there is a direct connection to the Scarlet Forest, but we don't know if that's the case for other locales. This seamless gameplay is not only nice for menus, exploration, and fighting fluidity, but it makes hunting a more natural experience. I can imagine, however, that the abundance of menus the game offers, and options as well, can be overwhelming for first-time players. However, the game does try its best to slowly ease you into the experience. Although I think the tutorials about more advanced gameplay strategies could show up a bit later. Maybe give us an option to state whether you are a new or an old hunter. New hunters get to focus a bit on basic controls and item usage essentials first, before seeing tutorials for new things such as offset attacks. Looking at the menu and option settings, the abundance of choices, which is in one way nice, can bury more important settings such as the focus camera, where you can decide if you yourself want to have control over the camera in combat or if the game handles it for you. Hey, just a quick reminder. If you like my video so far, I would greatly appreciate a like and maybe a comment too. Subscribe if you want to see more. Thanks! I personally like the old camera mode, as I get to hunt the way I want to. I think essential hunting menu options like these should get their own settings so they aren't buried under the other stuff. Options like focus camera, auto sheath, camera distance, and sacred manual controls would probably belong there, as they can influence your control and hunting flow greatly. The trusty sacred is there for your travel needs. It auto-travels to your objective or marked location. However, you also get the option to command it yourself. There are also some routes that only sacred can take, thanks to its high mobility. It is really helpful when traveling across the environment, but can be a bit hard to get control of at first. Just recently, I saw a comment under a social media post that talks about how you can get more control of the sacred in the menu. Turning manual sacred controls to Type 2, similar to hunter controls, makes it more comfortable for me. However, when changing the options for sacred auto-run, it doesn't seem to change much when trying to stop the sacred from auto-running. Pressing the auto-run button again in the normal controls also doesn't stop it. I think it would be of great benefit to control its auto-run feature by how many times you press that button, because now it can be quite annoying when sacred just decides on its own when to run. The Monster Hunter Wilds demo lets you play around with all the existing weapons. Monster Hunter combat flow is really engaging, as many attacks for the weapons are slower than what you might be familiar with from other games. However, that is not a bad thing, as this means that you can get punished for your decisions. For me, this is the most fun aspect of Monster Hunter, as you have to carefully but also quickly think about what you should use, should do, when and where. It is the dance with the monster that is so often talked about in the Monster Hunter community. That is what makes Monster Hunter combat stand out. You, as a hunter, aren't all powerful. Each weapon also got new moves, combos and mechanics, some of which coincide with the new gimmicks introduced in Wilds. While I haven't been able to try out every weapon, I did get to experiment with some, and while it takes a bit of getting used to, these new ways to damage monsters are really appreciated. The new wound attacks are a welcome change. From what I've seen with the weapons I've tried out, those wound attacks can inflict a stagger or even a topple. On top of that, they also seem to carry special effects, depending on the weapon, such as filling out the spirit gauge of the longsword when successfully hitting a wound with one of these attacks. In my opinion, this greatly increases engagement factor, while also not being too intrusive or necessary like Iceborne's Clutch Claw was. For those of you who are unfamiliar with Monster Hunter, combat is quite complex. However, weapons such as the Greatsword or the Dual Blades can be used on a basic level as well. The beauty comes from discovering new options and combos, which is also the case here. Even with weapons I feel quite familiar with, I sometimes end up seeing a social media clip that shows moves I haven't been able to pull off before. I am sure Wilds will surprise a lot of us with moments that go, "You can do that?" Oh yeah, another big addition is the focus camera, which enables you to aim your attacks more precisely. No more whiffing a true charge slash. While I miss the timing and positioning based weapon aim, I do think that kind of weapon adjustment is necessary now that we are dealing with more uneven terrain. The regular combat camera can use some work. I can't precisely state what it is that feels a tiny bit off, but there's something. Maybe it's, I don't know, I think it might be the speed. Probably that's the case. Okay, now for the thing that has plagued a lot of people in this beta. Let me say once more that this is just a beta, and things can and probably will be improved based on feedback. However, this doesn't mean that it shouldn't be addressed in detail, as it is crucial for future installments, as well as this one, to be vocal about it in a respectful manner. The community was already worried when Capcom first released the minimum requirements for 1080p 60 FPS, which included frame generation. I personally never heard of frame gen before that, but reading what people had to say when it comes to the implication of it being the requirements for 1080 and 60 was quite worrisome. From what my PC has told me by crying, "Ah, you're using 90% of my CPU!" It must probably be a CPU issue. Big shocker, I know. From what I've seen people say, it is a VRAM issue. However, I'm not that knowledgeable when it comes to tech, so please don't take my word for it. What can be said, however, is the optimization is not ideal. Looking at my specs, you would think that I should be able to run this game in 60 FPS with medium settings. But instead, I end up with 50 or 40 while the game still looks somewhat blurred and at the same time choppy. Even at the highest settings, the game looks off. I mean, it's playable for me, but too much blurriness and pixels in areas where that doesn't belong does hurt my eyes after some time. This is also why I didn't binge the demo as much as I thought I would. I experienced what I wanted after 9 hours and am now waiting for a more stable build to sink my teeth into. Other players had problems even when starting the game. Some even experienced black screens or the now memed upon polygon models. Luckily, that wasn't the case for me. Even some with higher end rigs ended up struggling to get 60 FPS. I didn't use frame generation, as people have reported issues with ghosting. However, that was confirmed fixed by the official Monster Hunter social media team for their future release build. If we get another beta or demo, I will maybe try that feature. Although maybe by then the stability for PC has been improved and I don't need to do that anymore. By the way, how was your PC experience? Did you get better or worse results? Let me know in the comments below. Overall, I had a lot of fun with the Wilds beta, despite the performance issues. Many people seem to share this opinion based on what I saw in public discussions. The combat is very fun and engaging with the new weapon moves and the offset mechanics, power clashes and wounds. I also like that these aren't really mandatory, unlike the Clutch Claw. Instead, it is another deeper combat mechanic you can choose to engage in. And it's honestly super engaging, as these new aspects require timing, positioning and strategy. Exploration itself is quick and interesting for the special areas being offered. Although this map is a little less interesting as others I've seen so far, I am sure, however, that other maps are going to be a blast. I mean, just look at the trailers for the Scarlet Forest. But if we want to have a more relaxed time exploring and going off the monster hunting path, Sacreds need better autopathing as well as a more concrete control over whether you turn autorun on or off. If these things about our mount are fixed, then it will be really good. Difficulty-wise, I'm not worried either. If the 4-star Alpha Doshaguma is anything to go by. I swear this 4-star version gave me more trouble than Raidao. I love that. More please. If the Monster Hunter team manages to fix the bad performance issues of Wilds, then I can say that this game will be an absolute blast and 100% worth your money. Alrighty, you have reached the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Tell me, what do you think about Wilds and its beta? Also, here are some other videos you can watch. My social media links will be in the description. Thank you for watching. See ya!